Recording. Tonight's talk is by Patty Brown, not Everest, but you can see it from there. Patty is, I'm just going to get that. Here, hold on, everybody. Patty is on the Planning Commission. She is a first responder. She was a science teacher for many, many years. Many kids have been in her classes, and in many other ways, and with much dedication, Patty has been working to make the world better. She puts a lot of effort in a lot of different ways. And we should commend her for that. So Patty grew up in a California family that enjoyed being away from home, but with four kids, that often meant road trips, and one foray into Tijuana. What was one of her most vivid memories was riding a cart pulled by a donkey painted to look like a zebra. I always think it's curious to see what we remember when we were kids. Her dad was always careful to remind us to notice how other people's lives were different from their own. And since she learned Spanish beginning in third grade, adult trips were mostly to Latin America, and for the language practice and for some sunshine that we all look forwards to when we're here in Alaska. This is her first time to an Asian country. So here's Patty Brown.
Thank you, Cindy. I appreciate it. Yeah, I think if we were to line up people that operate from a place of fear, and apprehension about newness and different things, I think it comes down to whether they've traveled or not, even just to the next town. The more exposure you have to the commonalities that make us human, the better. The better for making decisions for the whole world, which it seems like there's a lot of that going around right now. So I was really grateful to have the opportunity to, it's not going forward. We really did test all this.
Yeah, we did. Oh,
there we go.
It's back and forth. So forward, back.
Forward and then back.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'll do that.
If you need to go back.
Okay. Okay. My opportunity to go to Nepal came about actually in probably 2019. I think I was traveling somewhere in the state in 2019, and that's when we paid our deposit for our trip to go to Nepal to this very same trek. And then by the time March came around, COVID shut the world down. So we had a little talk with a few of us, and we decided to leave our deposits with the person who had arranged it for us, which is the same person you see in the picture. And so then we started all over again in 2025 to arrange the same trip again, but we were all 5 years older. Amazing. So I felt it, although I don't know what it would have felt like at 5 years earlier. I felt my age on the trip, which we'll talk about that a little bit later. But the woman you see in this picture, who's showing her phone photo to our guide, AJ. She worked at Glacier Bay right around the same time that I did. And so I met her in the mid 80s, and we remembered each other. I don't know, maybe you all have some time span in your background when those friends are still your friends. And so the people that I knew from working at Glacier Bay were those people, even though we scattered to the four winds. I, of course, feel close to the people that I live with in Haines for the past 30 years. But as far as historical friendships, a lot of them were centered around Glacier Bay. So this is my friend Carol and our guide, AJ. Here's a little bit of an overview of where Nepal is. And honestly, I carried around a little cut up map. A friend of mine makes wrapping paper out of, like, she goes to thrift stores and gets National Geographic maps and uses them for wrapping paper for her granddaughters. And there was a little birthday party when I was visiting her at one point, and I said, "Oh, could I have this piece?" And so I carried around this map just to keep me sort of anchored about here's where Nepal is. I've never been to Asia. And I had never heard of the Middle East being referred to, or certain countries of the Middle East referred to as West Asia. But now I know that, Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, those places are often referred to as West Asia now. We flew on Qatar Airways. We had a little bit of a glitch in the beginning. three of the people who were on our trip were from the Santa Fe area, and they had, I think it was a weather issue that they couldn't depart on time. So things had to get jumbled around, and a couple that went were routed toward Dallas and then flown on Qatar Airways somewhere else. Actually, I think they even had to take another airlines. So our whole trip was delayed by about half a day, but everything worked out okay. Easy for me to say. I'm not the one who lost half a day of sleep. So, but it was interesting. I love the little back of the seat maps that remind you where you actually are, because we flew Qatar Airways because we were going to land in Doha first. So 14-hour flight. I wore those compression stockings because I was 69 years old and I thought I'd rather be safe than sorry. So we landed in Doha, which is an amazing airport with it had this weird statue that had a teddy bear with like a lamp, like a study lamp, like you'd have in college on your desk. And I don't really know what it represented. I couldn't find anything. But what we also discovered on the way back is there's kind of a little jungle there and little huts that you could. I thought, oh, these are perfect for napping, but you're not really supposed to nap in there. But it was a big, fancy airport that like the likes of which I'd never seen. So that was the Doha airport, and we had a 12-hour layover. And one of the young women who went, my friend Carol's nieces in their 20s, they came with us. And one niece who lived in Anchorage at the time, we rendezvoused in Seattle, and we learned about if you had a certain span of layover time, you could get a room on the books of Qatar. So they'd pay for you to have a room. Of course, it takes a little while to get shuttled over to the hotel, but we still had a pretty good night's sleep and food and all that such. So that's what we did. So my friend Monica and I were able to take advantage of that. But interesting pictures that we saw. We only had a brief moment in Doha. If the time that we'd had as a layover is daytime, I would have taken a tour of some kind, but it wasn't. So it was sleep time. We landed in Kathmandu and the on the second flight. So we landed in Doha and then we made a 3-hour flight to Kathmandu. And this is the hotel that we were shuttled to. But the exciting thing was coming from the airport to the hotel and traffic. So the city was not made when there were 2 lanes of car traffic. So there was barely room for one car. And we were going the same direction in a car driven by our guide. And someone else, 2 of us were going one direction and one car was coming the other direction. And there was this really friendly, useful man sitting on his porch trying to direct everybody on who should go when. And that was really pretty amusing for me, considering how organized the US tries to be. But the hotel we stayed in, which was part of the cost of the trip, the amount of money that we paid for our trip was about $100 a day, so about $1,750. And it included breakfast at this nice hotel and a really serene place, which for me was really good. As soon as you ventured out of the grounds, traffic and dogs, and the weirdest thing, all kinds of wires. So it's for the internet and phone and everything else, but they were just a tangled rat's nest on every vertical surface, it seemed like to me. So being here and being zen was really good. So, but it was a really nice hotel, and it was amazing for me to think that I was on this trip. Then, I guess I should give a lead up to this. Let me see if I can be sure and pronounce the name of the place correctly. Normally you can fly from Kathmandu to Lukla, but at this point there was some construction going on at one of the airports, I think the Kathmandu airport, so they had to reduce the amount of traffic from there. And so we had to drive to a place called Ramchap Airport, which was 132 kilometers one way on a really windy road that had been damaged a little bit by a storm a year or 2 earlier. And so we had to drive there and then take a plane and then fly to Lukla. But the exciting thing about Lukla is it's commonly known as one of the most dangerous airports in the world. Can I remember the Yeah, Lukla is 9,184 feet. And one of the big deals about making this landing is you have to make, well, you can see the terrain. You have to make a really sharp turn and then touch down with a very short runway. So you have to make a really steep landing to fly into here. And many planes come in every single day taking tourists. So before I went, Mike Dinker said, "Oh, you probably get to fly into into the Lukla airport. That's so exciting. That's on my list. I really want to go there," because he's a pilot. And so when I came back, I cruised the tourist shops, and they had, sure enough, a baseball cap that said Lukla and gave the elevation. But so he wants to go to this really dangerous airport sometime. It's scary to even watch, honestly. I didn't get a great video of it, and kind of I was shaking. I don't know if remember now if I even included it, but look, uh, look online and you'll see at least what it looks like when the planes land. So that's exciting. Air traffic controller, they must sweat bullets every day, or maybe they're just used to it by now. And a lot of people, some people, I won't say a lot, some people come in by helicopter just to shorten their trip. The downtown Lukla, everywhere in Nepal includes some animal beasts of burden, including Lukla. So this is downtown. This is where they sell all kinds of things. People have forgot what they really need for their trip, or more than they even need. So we flew in. We had to leave around 3 in the morning to go to the Ramchap airport so that we could fly then to Lukla. So we were a little low on sleep, especially the people who'd had their flights messed up. They were pretty, but we still had a walking day. This wasn't a layover day, it was a walking day. So you probably can't see all the tiny words on here, but let's see, you said use this guy. So Kathmandu, we took an extra intermediate stop, Kathmandu. We drove from Kathmandu over to, I'm not sure exactly how far over was Ramchap, and then we flew to Lukla, and so that's the beginning of our trip. And that's the beginning of the trip if you go to either Gokyo-ri, where we went up here, or you go to Everest Base Camp. And I will just say right at the outset, I am so, so glad that I did not sign up for an Everest Base Camp trip. It's just too popular. And when you think about tons of people, hundreds of people, and things like, needing things like bathrooms, the thought of it's just bad. And what we saw on our hike is that 40 and 50 people would be in a group on their way to Everest Base Camp. So we feel like we got a really good deal to go to Lukla. But so let me see. Oh, there it is. From Lukla, we're going to hike all the way up this way through Namche Bazaar, both Everest Base Camp and Gokyo-ri people go through Namche Bazaar. So it's kind of busy in spots all the way to there. And then a little ways up here, they turn off and they go to Everest Base Camp going this way. But we went this way, and way fewer people, way fewer people. So that's a little bit of that. If you want to watch the recording, you could probably zoom in and get the names of all the towns. You're going to be in a national park whether you go to Everest Base Camp or Gokyo-ri or anywhere. Even if you took a day hike from Lukla, before long you would be needing a permit to go into the national park, and a permit for trekkers generally. And I actually was just looking at my little trekker card before I came, and there's a little QR code that you can look on there, and it gives you some safety advice and who to call if you get in trouble. So the permit has a little function too, so nice incentive. But everybody gets a trekker card, and so that if any rangers or anybody ask you if you have permission to be in the park, you can say yes. There was a little information panel at the beginning, and I remember looking at it and not really having a good understanding of whether I would see any of these things. But I didn't go into the monastery at Kumjun later, but I did go into the school and to the visitor center. So I'll tell more about that later. What amazed me is, well, first of all, I think Kathmandu is in the 20s as far as latitude, in like 24 or 28. And so bananas grow there, coffee grows there, avocados grow there, And I never pictured that. I think about Nepal and I think the whole thing is a great big gigantic mountain, snow-covered mountain all year long. But there's a lot of agriculture. So we started our walk going past little, probably mostly self-sufficiency farms, but probably somebody sells vegetables for people because there was always food where we went. They believe in recycling and taking care of the earth. And it's not like these things were overflowing, but I think it's probably largely because a lot of tourists aren't used to that. Um, our first, one of the things that's true, let me get the elevations here because that's kind of the big deal, the big difference. I mean, I've walked in different kinds of terrains, but to have the whole thing be elevated. Lukla is 9,184 feet. Fading, which is where we're going to stay the first night, is a few hundred feet shorter. So for its lower, Fading is 8,700 feet. So this is the Fading. It's the first time we had an idea what's our lodging going to be like. And this is where tourists stay, and then the porters stay somewhere else. They have kind of a dormitory, which they actually said they kind of like. So it was a usual keep your shoes outside the door and a very nice place. There is a lot of animal traffic in all these little communities. So here's where the yaks spend the night. I didn't see exactly where the Sherpa, the porters spend the night, but the next day, so this is our second day of walking, is right along a beautiful riparian area. And some of the time it was really hot and I wish we could just stay a little longer and take a little swim, but we couldn't. So we just took our time, and plus I was breathing a lot. So we looked at how they use stones for everything because the building material is you either have to use what you have or you have to carry it in on your back. So it didn't appear that school was in session when we were there, but it could have been. One of the things that's true is all the trails are shared by pack animals. So mules and yaks are the main ones. So these tiny little narrow rocky trails you share. On the second day, we got to the national park, and this is a gateway. Everything is very ornate, beautiful gateways, and this is one. And there's plenty of park rules. And there's rangers at the visitor center telling you what's what. Here's things you can't do. So it's the same kind of things as most national parks that we're used to. Don't take stuff, don't break stuff, don't leave trash, all that. And then there's these, I'm going to forget the exact phrase, but the phrase that's repeated on these rocks is a blessing. It's blessing everybody along their way. So places that you see these rocks with the words, Tibetan words on them, are usually gateways. They're the beginning of something. So I can't remember the exact word, sorry, and I brought my wrong sheet that didn't have it on the back. It's painted on. So it's there are probably places that are carved on, and we did find places with stone tablets, but they were smaller letters. I couldn't tell for sure if they're the exact thing, but I wouldn't be surprised. They'd been around a lot longer. But we still share the trails, and I don't think they read much, but they share the pathway with us. Then there's the big deal, the suspension bridges. So I read more than I probably should have before I went. I thought, I don't know, I'm not that good with heights and it's skinny. And now I see all these big animals. I'm sure not going across it when there's a yak going across it. But there they are. The bottom one is now a bungee jumping tourist attraction, which I didn't see anyone partake of that. And then the upper one is the Hillary Suspension Bridge. So it's kind of famous. So at this point, everybody, the Everest Base Camp people and the Gokyo-ri people and anybody else are going to need to cross the Hillary Suspension Bridge. One of the things that kind of fascinated me is all the different kinds of trails. Some of them look like they were really elaborate and poured cement or really seriously carved out rock. And I can't really say which ones I liked better. It was really a matter of how well I was breathing that day. One thing I will say I wish I had done, because by the end of the trip, I was probably the last one to start coughing. But apparently there's a phenomenon called the Khumbu cough, which is a cough you get if you've hiked in this valley. And I don't think there's any particular microbe or anything that triggers it, but what I realized after I had hiked, I have a little bit of asthma. So I had my inhaler and that sort of thing, but I wish I'd covered my face more. I only thought about cold, so I didn't cover my face. And I think if I had, I would have created a little humidity for one thing. And so if I did it again, I would do that. So this is on the way to the Hillary, and there we are on the far side, looking down on the bungee jumping place. And no, thank you. One of the next really impressive things about this hike is how much people carry. I mean, this is plywood. This is regular size plywood. And we saw later, not this person, but we saw someone else who had 8 sheets of plywood on his back. And these people are doing trail work with just chipping rocks and filling in holes. And a lot of the trail maintenance is required because of the monsoons that occur during the season. And yeah, yeah, you either have to use what you have or you have to carry it in. There's a little bit of helicopter use in Namche Bazaar, but not much. It's not. More of the helicopter traffic that we saw was hauling out tourists who were ill-equipped for the expedition they took on. I didn't really give a whole lot of thought to what the terrain would be like. Like I said, Everest. Oh, you're going near Everest, so everything's going to be snowy and white. But no, it's a very diverse, actually. I don't know the names of all the plants by any means, or very many of them even, but I could certainly appreciate that there was a lot of variety. It's was dry there. I think there's only one wet season every year, but a lot of plants just do fine. The big downtown Khumbu Valley is Namche Bazaar, and this is Namche Bazaar. You go through a little cool little archway to get there, and the amazing thing is these places have flush toilets. They have solar power all over the place. They have hydropower all over the place, and they have really modern, attractive lodges. There, people use the word tea houses. These were more than that, way more than that. So Namche Bazaar, we stayed there 2 nights because the middle of our stay, we took a day hike to help acclimatize to the next spot because Namche Bazaar is 12,496 feet. So we're getting up there now.
So all of those buildings are made of materials that were carried in an entire day, I think.
This is the place that has some helicopter use. I think they brought in the glass, largely the glass. But yeah, a whole lot of it was carried on people's backs. Roofing was carried on people's backs. But some things were brought in by helicopter over time. And I don't know how rapidly it changed. I do have a friend that has been to the Himalayas like maybe 4 times. And so if I could get I could maybe get an idea from him on how quickly this place exploded into this big. Because I went to Machu Picchu 30 years apart, and it exploded in how much density of commercial. But I certainly cannot begrudge people wanting to find a way to live their lifestyle. Women are celebrated in Nepal. This is the first Nepali woman to summit Everest, and there's a little statue for her. These, here's some, yeah, beasts of burden everywhere. So, Hungry Yak. I don't know if there's a song to go with it or anything, but live music. I was too tired. I'd been breathing all day. And so I didn't go out and party when I was there, but I thought it was fun, the lights and hearing people have a good time. And of course, we have, instead of Starbucks, we have Yak Buck. And let's see, our lodging was down on this street. I can't remember exactly where. And here's the dining room for the lodging that we stayed in. I took my first shower at this place. There were showers that you could rent, but it was really slippery and I crashed and I thought, oh God, my trip's going to be totally over. But I whacked my shin really hard, but I recovered. It was not as bad as I had feared. But you can rent charging your phone. You can pay a little bit for that. You can pay for showers. I think most people just washed their underwear out in the sink. I don't think anybody did actual laundry on our trip. It was 10 nights. And then no matter what you forgot, you could probably find it in Armchair Bazaar. So one of the most amazing things I thought when I was at Armchair Bazaar is that they do hydropower. They do solar, of course. You can just figure out which way to orient it and you'll get some light. But hydropower. So the prayer wheels spin around by themselves because the water's pushing it. And then the power that's generated by the turbine that's spinning around, there's cables that come out of here. I don't know for sure if the video is going to work, but I guess it will. So they get good wishes and blessings and power. So the day after the first night we stayed, the second day that we were in Namche Bazaar, we took an acclimatization hike for probably 3 or 4 hours, I think. But this was close to town, and it's our first glimpse of Everest, which is on the left, and Lhotse, which is on the right. That's the one that Matt knew. And then Abba Dablam is kind of behind. You can't really see the shape of it, which is its main distinction, but you will later. So this is the first real glimpse we had of Mount Everest to get a good sense of where we are. And this is a viewpoint, really popular. So that's when we got a good sense of how many people come through Namche Bazaar. This is the ridge, the opposite, looking the opposite way as toward Everest. So on our walk, here's a monument to garbage. So they're kind of reminding people, don't trash our place. We live here. And I thought that was very artistic. One of the things that's been true for me the last, I don't know, probably 20 years now is finding art in unusual places or unexpected places. Then there was the hike up to the bakery. This is a very popular place, a bakery, and it's not long after this, the road's going to fork and the people who are going to Everest Base Camp will veer off to the right, and those of us going to Gokyo will veer off to the left. So there were all kinds of treats there for people. And above Namche Bazaar, also, as was the bakery, we see another one of they're called stupas, and they are for blessings. And they're in other countries too. I think, are there stupas in other countries? Have you seen? I'm not sure. I've only seen them here. It's my first time. But another thing that's true is there's dogs. There's no dogs in my picture here, but there's dogs all over the place, and they'll follow people. And so somebody must feed them. But this was our view as we start to head into the valley. And there was a dog came up to greet us at this spot. And this reminds us to make the turn or we're going to go to where all those other people are. So, and this is, if you bear off to the right, that's where Mount Everest is. So looks rugged. They're all rugged, actually, all the places you go up and down. You might think, okay, we're going to our high point. It's going to be over 17,000 feet, but we go down and then we go up and then we go down. I hiked some of the Pacific Crest Trail many years ago. Same true. It's not a crest. You just hike along like that. You go down and you go up and down. So this was one of the spots, but nice to have bathrooms. And as we start getting up to a little more arid area, here's some of this is when they carved into the rock instead of painting. A little more arid spot. Kind of, you could call it tundra. It was pretty warm though, but not much moisture. And it was definitely impacted by being so high. And this is one of our lodgings that we stayed in, and these girls in charge of drying the poop so that you can burn and be hot. And cook also, actually, it goes in a stove and then you can cook. So we took a climate on the second, not that place, but the next one up. We took another acclimatization day, just probably about 3 hours to just practice breathing. So it's like they say, hike high and sleep low. We were kind of doing that, just not as dramatic as Everest. And more modern conveniences. You might see a tea kettle in that upper left-hand picture. They actually are just heating water because they don't want to bother to use precious fuel for just heating water when they can just keep it warm all day and maximize it by the little dish. Uh-oh, lost my spot. You said go back and then go forward? Ah, I'm stuck. Mhm. Oh, there we go. Oh, thank you. I don't know how I missed it. Anyway, I got my picture taken with this girl because I thought she was stunningly beautiful. And now we're starting to head up to Gokyo, which is our turnaround point for elevation. And so I'll take this little rugged space to tell you my nearest miss in this on this trip. So honestly, I was lagging most of the time. The 20-year-olds, they're flying. The porters, they're hanging with us. They know where we are and they're going to take care of us. But and Carol is a swim coach and a physical therapist and close to my age, but really fit. And the other couple, the man used to run, 100-mile races till he had a heart attack. He doesn't run 100-mile races, but he does have strong muscles. And his wife had worked really hard to overcome some physical limitations, and she was totally steady going uphill. She had knee issues, and coming downhill was really hard for her. So I was usually lagging. And at this point, we had just gotten to where you get up onto a flatter area where the lakes are. And it was just starting to, maybe not in this picture, but it was just starting to get a little spitty snow, sort of. And I stopped to take a drink of water, and then realized it was spitting snow, and decided I should put my gloves on, which is really hard when your hands are already wet. And so I was putting my gloves on, and then all of a sudden I heard a bell. It was a yak. They wore bells, which was helpful. But it was suddenly there, and I was right next to a giant drop off, which you might kind of have the perception of that just right there. So on one side is a big steep cliff, and on the other side is a gigantic drop off. And here comes this several big giant animals. And all of a sudden, here comes one of the porters, like bounding, and they were like the Keds that we wore when we were little kids. And he was just bounding and bounding. And then he pushed the yaks so that they would be on the outside and I would be on the uphill side. And then just yelled at him and yelled at him until they went past, and just basically saved me, because I think if he hadn't recognized that I was back there, and I mean, I'm sure they're like counting us like little baby chicks. And anyway, I'm very much beholden to him for making the yaks go on the scary side and letting me have the not scary side. So I tried to keep up with people, but still. Anyway, Gokyo Lakes is apparently known to be one of let's see, the village of Gokyo is 15,744 feet. So it's known to be the highest freshwater system in the world. So that's pretty exciting. We did another acclimatization hike because the schedule of the next day was to climb to our high point, which is 17,000 and something. 17,570 is where we're going to be heading up to the next day. And so we just took a little walk. Little walks turned into be bigger walks some of the time, but you get a big view as a result. Here's the village of Gokyo. The mountain that we're going to climb is over on this side. But this is where we got to, and then a gigantic, oh gosh, how did it do that? How do I make it go back to the whole show? Just click the picture probably. There we go.
There you go.
Yeah, okay. Oh, sorry, I can't drive this. So looking down on this giant glacier, so the people that are hiking to Everest Base Camp would look at it from the other side, but we got a really nice look. It was just evening, we had just hiked in, and we'll have dinner shortly. And then this is the peak the next day. I somehow must have overlooked putting in the progress. I was the slowpoke, but I was still happy to make it. I had thought the night before that I might not even give it a go. I'd had a little bit of whatever you call Montezuma's revenge in Tibetan. And so felt a little bit weak and thought, oh, but here I came this far. And by 3 o'clock in the morning, when we had to leave, or 3 or 4, first light, I was ready to go for it. And so we hiked up to the top. You have to hike up early because the clouds roll in. So you want to get up early enough that you could see the view. And here we were. And then we did indeed get the view of Everest and Lhotse. So we got to spend a few minutes up there. And I had brought one of Joni Wagner's sets of flags on the trip. So the bottom picture was en route to this peak, and then the upper part, AJ's and another porter is helping hang them. So we left them. They are there. Joni is on the top of Gokyo-ri. And here's what it looks like coming down. So you could see that the terrain is not always steps. It can be really steep. So this is looking, of course, down valley, and that's where we're going to go next. And AJ convinced us that the weather was changing radically and we didn't want to be out in the snow. So we thought, really, it looks pretty nice. But we went, and sure enough, he was right. That's why guides are good. And so we hiked back down to the very same place we had stayed the night before we hiked to Gokyo. So we spent a night at Gokyo village, and then we spent 2 nights at Mochermo, which is this village. And then we didn't want to go exactly back exactly the way we came. So we went to this other little village, which was honestly kind of hard to navigate when it was super cloudy, but still beautiful entrance, and we kind of straggled in. And then I must say, I had an interesting wave of, they're letting cell towers be in the middle of a really beautiful view. But it's their only hope for having anything like a phone service. So anyway, but they didn't make it look like a stupid tree. So I thought it was pretty good. And looking up into the houses, you can't even really see it looking this direction. It's the cell towers over here. So, and one was enough because they put it high enough up that everybody can take advantage of it. One of the things, of course, impressive is that people carry everything themselves, and they use their heads for support too. So, which I don't know, that seems like that would be a headache still, be a hard thing. The trails had huge variety. So this one has a lot of dirt with little stone steps. My friend Lauren, who was on the trip that had knee issues, she had to go slower coming down, but she just had sticks like several of us. There wasn't very much wildlife, but one thing we did see is musk deer. We saw more of them in the forest, but it was hard to get good pictures of them in the forest. And there was also some kind of goat that I don't really know the name of it. It wasn't a domesticated feral goat. It was a natural goat, native goat. But yaks, they're not really native, but they've been there for so long that they seem like they are. And I don't know, I will always remember, how much people do without when they you just live a simpler life. And I mean, and it was amazingly comfortable for tourists. I felt really pampered, honestly. And they were happy to see us. It's a great contribution to go to Nepal and other places that don't have everything that we have. One of the last villages that we were at is Kumjung. I think that's the name of it. And that's the place where there was a school was made by Sir Edmund Hillary, who summited Everest in May 29th, 1953. Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay were the first people to log in that they summited. And from making several trips to Nepal, he said, it would be really great if kids had a chance to have an education. And so he helped make that happen. And so they honor him today, and they use it as a school today. And one of the things that stands out really clearly about what goes on there is a sense of taking care of where you live. And so there were beautiful posters made by the kids talking about, and there's some even about climate change and pollution. So I was really impressed. I spent a lot of time there. I didn't go to the monastery, but I was attached at the school. So I'm going to read to you what this is, so you have an idea in case you ever want to donate money to I think it's still the Himalayan Trust are the people who make it happen. Our goal for the Solu Khumbu region is environmental sustainability, so we can all take pride in the beauty of these special valleys. Climate change is contributing to glacial retreat, glacial lake outbursts, floods, reduced growth rate of forests, and more forest fires. So we must work to help preserve the natural and cultural environment of the Everest region and of planet Earth, our home. We need to educate children and the young at heart about environmental care. So one of the last places we stayed, we got to see the dried out yak poop do its job. So that helps it be sustainable. There's yaks, there's poop, so we might as well make it do some of the work. Oops. One of the most beautiful views was out our lodge window. This is Abu Dablam. Very, very distinctive. Whoop. Where did I put it? Oh, right there. Very distinctive shape for that mountain. And that's the moon actually. So it's really pretty bright out. And very distinctive glacier scoop. And Everest again. And the trees are really interesting. I wish I had known more about them before I came. So next time I will do more of that. I think this is Juliet. I think she's in medical school now. So she had a nice little break before she went. This is just noticing the steepness of the trails and where they are in the landscape. This is an example of you have to go, like we're trying to go down, but you have to go up before you can go down. So here's the trail. Through the forest, steep, steep, steep. You just rest a lot. So I walked with one of the younger porters, and he would always say, drink water, walk slowly. So now I hear his voice all the time when I'm huffing and puffing somewhere. He would say, drink water, walk slowly, take a rest. So, okay, those three things. And yeah, I don't know I recognize the distinction of landscapes, but I don't know the names of plants. But I really like the riparian areas. These are back down. We hiked again and stayed again at Fading. On the way, we ate lunch. You can kind of see what the food is like. They actually had spaghetti, and you can see they just kind of cater to the normalcy of the tourists who come. So I wore my big hat because it's really sunny. It's not that far north of the equator. We always commented on the spelling, chop suey. So yes, it's fun. We could get the idea. And then we had been warned not to drink alcohol on the way up, but we could drink alcohol after we had come down quite a ways. So there's my first Nepali beer. It's kind of a red beer. On the way, all the way out, it was raining almost the whole way. And so it was a little slippery and a little lonely, but still beautiful. And we kind of spread out, as I recall. We weren't walking with each other all that much. You could see people for scale down there. That helps a little bit. That's a bunch of people, so it's probably a Everest Base Camp group. And more of them, mana. They're called mana. I will miss prayer. I think it might be good to have those. Have little prayer wheels that you can. And there's a rule: you have to always spin them clockwise. I don't know if it means all your blessings go away if you spin it the other way, but that's what we're supposed to do. And this is culture, thinking about the culture that we've learned about. We all thought we were pretty buff by the time we were done. And I wore mostly my hiking shoes and then just had one other pair when I was in the lodge, so you could let your toes branch out. This is the 6 of us and AJ, our guide. And huge tribute and huge thank you to the porters. I don't think we would have made it with the gear that we were carrying. We carried our sleeping bags. We didn't really always need them, but it was nice just in case it had been cold. We would have an extra cover. But they worked so hard. So the way it works is you pay the regular fee to the guide like you would for anything, and then there's recommended amounts for tips. And so I think each of us tipped the guide $250 and then the porters $150, and then they split that among all three of them. And they were very grateful and happy, but yeah. So here's what their loads look like, and we just carried little day packs. I mean, and they still had whatever they needed, so they're carrying our stuff and their stuff. And this was the end. We had a great dance party at the end of the trip with American sounding music and Nepali sounding music, and Then we had one day left in Kathmandu, and we went to, so everybody always wants to go to the Monkey Temple. We'd never heard of it, but that's where people go. And I always like to be at places where the regular people who live there go, because I just say, then I feel a little less like a little princess. And it's like, here's some other people to spend the Sunday. And so here's one of the great statues for stupa that store the blessings. At one time, I guess they used to store the remains of leaders and clerical leaders before, but now they're kind of just a monument to blessings and there I had to get one monkey in there because it's a monkey temple, but they are really sort of everywhere, almost creepy. You look off one way, you see the sprawl and the smog, and you look the other way and it's all green. And so it was a nice day. Here's the wires I told you about. And now I can't. It's just crazy, but the crow probably thinks it's a nest. And in case you want to go to Nepal, I've been communicating with AJ because I asked him some questions that I couldn't remember. And uh, here's his contact information. He said it's been really slow, and I can just list probably 4 or 5 reasons why right now. But you realize economic decisions made by some countries affect all the countries, and that'd be us. So. And then I had to congratulate the um, Gen Z in Nepal overthrew their government in September last year, and as a result, they have had a temporary prime minister, their first woman who was a prime minister. And I don't know, I didn't catch up with March, what happened in March yet, but anyway, so change can happen and it's needed. So thank you very much for sharing the trip to Nepal with me. Didn't answer any questions if anybody has any, or I got a typhoid shot before I went. Not a shot, I actually opted for the pills. They last 4 years and that shot lasts 2 years. Um uh let's see what else. And then for medicine to take with me just in case, Dr. McMahon set me up for things for like internal infections or external infections. I'm forgetting the name of the medication, but there is a medication you can take that nothing can help you make more red blood cells except staying somewhere at high elevation and going up slowly. But this particular medication helps each of your red blood cells carry more oxygen. So I started taking it at Lukla.
Can we all take?
I think we can all take that. So I think the youngsters didn't, I think they started taking it maybe on day 4 or so and just kind of took half dose. But those of us of a certain age, we just sucked it up and took it. And I didn't feel bad at all. I didn't have the headaches and some people, they think they're really athletic and they think that will fix it. It doesn't fix it. It makes people go too fast and then they really hurt. So yeah, so that's not good. Go slow or take the meds or both. So walk slowly, drink water. So
Were you there?
what time was I there? 1 year ago I was there. Right now, about this time. Yep. And there were rhododendrons starting to bloom. There weren't too many. I didn't take too many pictures. I think, did Ron just ask me about my camera?
Yes, did you use your phone for all the photos, and what was the weight of your?
Oh, that's a good question. So I didn't take my phone because right before that, I was hearing that they were taking phones away at customs or on the US side, TSA. I don't know who was taking phones, but because of some of the work I've been doing at the border, I didn't want to get people in trouble. So I didn't want them to take my phone. So I took a point and shoot. Um, and that worked pretty well, except I should have studied more before I took it because all the pictures were super great. But except a few of the pictures were taken by other people who did have phones. The girls had their phones. And the weight of my pack, I didn't have to carry very much overnight stuff. So I carried my water filter. So we all filtered our water. I had the old-fashioned Catadine filter that you pump like that, which was heavy. But my roommate, Carol, had the one where you just pour it in and the filter, it goes through a filter, just drains. So we could just fill it at night. And then in the morning we had filtered water. So my pack, probably my day pack, 15 or 20 with water. maybe 20 if it had the beginning of the day water in it at the most. And then the pack that the porter carried had my sleeping bag, a whole bunch, way more first aid stuff than I probably needed, an extra pair of shoes. And so each of the porters carried two of our overnight sets of stuff. So kind of personal toiletries were in there, and yeah, so not too much, but actually when we got on the airplane, it was a lot. So when you add it all together. So good question. I'll ask my buddies too. Anybody else have a question? Yes,
Well,
Sue.
looking back, what would you have brought or what would you have done differently to enhance it? And also, what were your favorite things that you did that you were not so sure you might do?
That's a good question. Okay, so the question that's been asked is, what would I bring or not bring that on another trip? And what was the second part? What would
Yeah,
I?
the question was, what would you do differently
Well,
if looking back,
with-
or what you weren't sure you were gonna do and you did,
Yeah,
and it really worked out?
I I kind of the question was, what would I have done differently? What did I do that was kind of surprising? Um, so I think I would have trained harder. So I would have climbed more mountains or played tennis or something. So I would take a little more time to get more cardio fit. I would use a mask when I hiked, like a bandana. Um, what I did do, I wish I'd interacted with the people more, and I wish I had learned more Nepali words. So I think it's a matter of taking more time. I don't know that I didn't feel like it was really going to happen. And then I thought, well, I keep moving forward. We paid our money. We know it's going to happen. I've made my reservations. Yeah, I think I've kind of been knocked a little bit a kilter since COVID, because I used to just jump right in and do these things. So I'm glad that I was able to do this thing. Um, yeah, I would have liked to know more people, but I felt a little bit shy partly because I hadn't learned the language. But there are ways. There's a woman, if you ask me, I can look it up. There's a woman who actually made a couple of CDs for English speakers to learn Nepali. So if I went again, even to go hang out in the town for a while, I would want to practice speaking Nepali language. Um, but it was sweet how nice everyone was, and I live by myself, so I wasn't sure how it was going to work out being with other people 24/7, but that worked out. Being able to walk in the woods by myself, and then by the end of the day, you're ready to play with people. Um, yeah, I did miss out on a little bit of a dancing lesson. I think I don't know what I was doing, just end of the day stuff, and some people cashed in on dancing in one of the lodges, and it was like the end of Slumdog Millionaire, that kind of dancing. What's that called again? I forgot what it's called. But there's a great way. I think Carol and her nieces cashed in on that. So I would never miss a moment. But I feel really honored to have been able to go and to visit another continent. So now I want to see some more Asian countries. So maybe Nepal again.
What was the temperature range?
That's a good question. I was never really cold. So, I had the right gear, but I wasn't ever really cold. And there were some days that were sort of hot. I think it probably might have been, high 70s, low 80s on some of those days in the lowlands by where the rivers were. Those got warm. Um, yeah, I'm just so impressed by how little people really need to be happy, and they might want to have some certain other things, but I think some people would, if they were just suddenly airlifted down here and they should go, what the heck is this all about? You have more time for your family and doing the simple things if we have less complicated lives.
Did they seem like generally very happy people?
They did. They seemed, yeah. And then, I mean, it's hard to say when they're happy for us to come and help lift them up a little bit and be less worried. But They seem like it. They seem like didn't have complaints about what their life was like, and they found ways to have clean water. And oh, and toilets. I didn't talk about toilets very much, but Namche Bazaar had flush toilets and showers and all that, but many of the places, even those ones way out where they lived in stone houses, they just had a big barrel, just like if your pipes froze, a big giant garbage bucket full of water, and you use that for flushing it. So you have a commode, and then I don't know exactly where everything went, but that's how you could flush it. And I didn't smell any sewage anywhere. So I don't know exactly. They might have had something like a septic tank, but lined with rock. I don't know for sure, but it was convenient from the standpoint of a tourist. I don't feel like we were lacking anything from, yeah, from even just, the minimum that we would like to be able to stay clean and well fed and all that. So it was good. And so the money that you pay for these trips, it includes all the food and all the lodging. So it just seems amazing. You pay $300 a day to go down the Grand Canyon, and this is $100 a day. So, yeah. So and they're very appreciative of all of it too. So, anyway. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time and all that you have shared. Some of you in this room have shared, and yeah, it's good. Travel is good. So
Thank you for
Thank
those beautiful pictures.
thank you. Yeah.
Wow.
We'll pass that on to some of the friends too, because it was kind of potluck. We loaded all onto a Google Drive. So that was good for things that I didn't have. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.